We are on our live stream, and what I would like to talk about today is insoluble problems. Insoluble or unsolvable problems. So, we live in a world of opposites. This three-dimensional reality is a world of opposites. In this world, you can't know light unless you know darkness. You can't know love unless you know fear. You can't know pleasure unless you know pain. Okay, so this world knows what it is by what it is not. And so that's an important thing to understand, that if you are living three-dimensionally, you are living in a world of opposites. And we go so far as to say it's a world of illusion, because you can't really you can't really expect that truth is like that. But in this world, it is like that. So even though it's a world of illusions, we don't want to be in denial about things. Just because there's a problem in this world, we don't want to say, oh, well, it's just an illusion, and then stick our head in the sand and then hope it goes away on its own. That's not the right way to live. But there are certain things about this world that we don't question, and it would be worthwhile to start questioning if we really do want to get some of our problems solved. One of the things that we don't question about this world is the idea of the reality of it. The idea of the reality of things as we see them. We think that if we see something with our eyes, or we feel it with our hands, or we hear it with our ears, or we taste it with our tongues, we believe that it's real. And that's that's sort of like a big conspiracy. If you're a conspiracy theorist, there is a big conspiracy, and it's the conspiracy of our ego. Our ego has conspired to make this world seem as real as possible so that it can believe that it's succeeded in separating us from our source. Our ego is a belief system. It's a habit that we have gotten into in believing that we are separate, that we're separate from our good, we're separate from our source, we're separate from that which is our creator. And a world of separation engenders fear. And so this is a fearful world because it's a world of separation. So when you are living in a world of separation that is organized by a thought system based on separation, based on fear, then it's no wonder that everything in this world is a fearful experience. And that's why the Buddhists will say all life is suffering. All life in this world is suffering. Because if you believe that this world is what is real, then you know that you can't have pleasure without pain. You can't have love without fear. So this world is a world of suffering. But one of the main reasons why this world is a world of suffering, and that the Buddhists are correct in that regard, is because this world is set up to fail. We are set up to fail in this world. The ego has set things up in this world so that there are problems that are not solvable, and that it wants you to live your life seeking for solutions that are not possible. Seeking for solutions of problems that are not possible. And it does that by asking questions that are unanswerable. Such as, how do I make my body live forever? How do I make this relationship last forever? How do I make it so that they never leave me? How do I make it so that this experience never ends in this world? Well, it knows that it's created a world for you that has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and everything within the world is subject to death. Everything within this three-dimensional world is illusory, so it's got a beginning, a middle, and an end. And so then it tells you what you want is to go in this world of beginning, middle, and end and try to find eternality within it. Try to find that which doesn't end within this world. That's an insoluble problem. There's no way. You can't do it. And where we mess up is that we don't question the premise that is put before us. So instead of thinking, how can I make sure that this relationship never ends in the world, that's setting us up for failure, isn't it? Because everything in this world is subject to death. Everything in this world will pass away. So this relationship will end. One of your bodies will die before the other, or you'll break up, or something will happen, somebody will move. The relationships in this world are mortal. They have a beginning, middle, and an end. So if your ego is saying, now go into this relationship with the idea of finding a way that it can never end, it's setting you up for failure. Right? So then when people realize that, they think, oh, I see. So since that's the case, what I need to do is just accept the fact that it's going to end and just be okay with the tragedy of this life, that we're going to die and nothing's permanent. That's an ego trick. That's an ego trick to make you think, well, what you can do is just put up with suffering. You can just deal with suffering. You just resign yourself to the fact that it's tragic here. And so that's how the ego keeps you stuck. It either tries to seek for solutions to problems that don't have solutions, or to make you feel like you need to resign yourself to eternal suffering. So as we listen to the ego's voice, we are confronted with problem after problem after problem that has no solution, and that the only solution is to either keep seeking and not finding, or to resign yourself to the fact that you're going to be in pain forever. Okay? Neither one of those has any bearing on what's true. Okay, so we're listening to the wrong voice when we're looking at how to solve insoluble problems. What we want instead is to learn how to listen to a voice inside of us that asks real questions, that gives us real opportunities, that gives us some premise that has a basis in truth. Oops, there we go. So rather than thinking, how do I make this relationship last forever in this form, which is what the ego thinks, because the ego only looks at form, not substance. Spirit says, how do I find the eternality of this relationship as it exists now? And the spirit doesn't look to the body to find that person. The spirit looks to the truth of that person, who they are as a soul, and you and will constantly show you where you guys are connected eternally and how you can never be separated, because your connection doesn't exist within this world. Therefore, your connection doesn't exist within a finite body. Your connection exists outside of this world, where everything is permanently perfect, where everything is eternal. And these problems that seem so unsolvable have already been solved, because they don't even exist, because those kinds of questions aren't even entertained in the world of spirit. So you don't have to resign yourself to suffering. What you need to do is ask to be shown the reality of the situation. You ask to be shown the correct questions to ask, rather than how do I make these bodies live forever, is the wrong question, because you're looking for eternality in a world of mortality. Instead, Spirit will ask a question such as, where do I already exist eternally? Where do I live that is deathless? Where do I live that doesn't have the problem of death? So when Jesus said that death was the last enemy to overcome, it wasn't just a pretty saying. He was saying that as a metaphysical truth. He was giving instruction in how to become an adept. The last enemy to overcome in this life is the fear of death, because we recognize that death doesn't exist. But death isn't just the body. Death is any circumstance, any situation, anything that you're looking at in this world, that you're looking at. Even your day is going to die. You're never going to have this day again. It's going to be dead. right? You're never going to have this encounter again. As soon as you finish listening to this live stream, then the live stream is dead. You can go back and listen to the recording of it, but you'll never be able to hear it live again. So if you're thinking in terms of, well, what I need is eternality in form, then you're going to be very, very depressed when this stream is over, thinking that this form needs to last forever, right? So instead of thinking of looking to the world to find where the problems are and thus the solutions are, you need to look to Spirit to find out where the right questions are. So if you have a problem in this world that needs a solution, you don't look to the world to solve the problem, because the world is only going to show you, your ego mind is only going to show you how to seek for something that can't be found. The ego is only going to give you temporary relief from existential pain at best. But really what the ego is doing is playing the shell game with you. Is to distract you from the reality. Because if you stopped looking to the ego for the solution of these unsolvable problems and you turned instead to Spirit, then the ego knows that the jig is up. You know, you see the wizard behind the curtain, and it doesn't want you to do that, so it keeps you real busy. It keeps you real busy with these unsolvable problems, and that's why you're so tired all the time. So, what we want to do instead, when we start looking at our problems, is recognize what we are inclined to do in order to find solutions to problems, and recognize, wait a minute, how solvable is this problem as it's being presented to me? Let's ask Spirit to redefine this for us so that we can see the actual solution to the problem. Because the problem as it's presented to you by the ego is something that can't be solved because it's not the real problem. So let's look from now on, let's start to discipline our minds when we are presented with a problem, is to not try to go in and try to fix it. Because when we try to go fix it, what we're doing is we are engaging that part of our mind that created the problem in the first place and wants to just keep us stuck in trying to solve problems that are not solvable. And that's how it keeps us away from Spirit. The reason why the ego wants to keep us away from Spirit is because ego's got its own bizarre little survival instinct. But what you have to recognize is the ego is not an entity. The ego has no life. The ego is nothing but an old habit of thought. That's all it is. And it's a very, very sly, intelligent, brilliant habit of thought. Why is that? Because we were created by infinite intelligence. So anything that we create is brilliant. Even the horrible things that we create, they're brilliant. They're genius, like the evil genius in us, right? And it's just our genius used for purposes of making us hurt rather than making us happy. But when we realize that Spirit's will for us is happiness, then we can turn to Spirit and ask to be delivered from these problems. And the way that we're delivered from the problems is that Spirit reinterprets what the question is, reinterprets the problem for us. And we realize that the problem was already solved and that we don't have to do anything. All we have to do is be delivered by asking the right question. All right, well, I hope that was interesting for you, and I can't wait to work with you again. And until that time, blessed be.